Good day, Junior Tuckies. I am Mrs. Beardenkamp, and in this lesson I will be teaching you the difference between a discursive and an argumentative essay. Let's start off with what these essays have in common. So, both essays, you're given a topic. You either have to agree, disagree, or look at both sides of the argument. You will use a formal register, which means no slang, no colloquial language, and no contractions. It must be in a logical manner, and research is often required to write these types of essays. And of course, planning is absolutely essential. So let's start off with planning and how you should plan. With either essay, you can use this planning technique. So, of course, planning is essential. Step one is to analyze your question. What are they asking you? Which side of the argument do I fall on? Am I agreeing? Am I disagreeing? Or am I going to talk about both? Then you need to highlight the important parts of the question. So, for example, I've given a topic over here. Has the internet made society better? Then you're going to go to your next step, where you're going to list or create a mind map of pros and cons. So these are going to serve as your points or your P in your body. Then step 3, organize your points and thoughts. What's going to be my paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4? Then we're going to move on to step 4, P, which stands for point, example, explain. So this is how you're going to create your argument or an argument for or against in both essays. So you're going to make a point, you're going to make a statement, you're going to give an example, a real life situation or a story coming from your research, and then you need to explain how does this point link back to the question. So I gave an example of a point for our topic. So the point says people can stay in touch all around the world. People make use of social media platforms such as Facebook to get in touch with long-lost friends, distant family members, and to follow their lives. Without social media, many people would remain detached from others around the world. Let's look at a P or step 4 for against the topic. So social media has negatively affected children. Children often compare themselves to others on social media. What they see in photos are not what is reality, and it's often altered with filters. This negatively affects the self-esteem of children. Do you feel good enough when you're scrolling through social media? Children have no choice but to question whether they are good enough because of these perfect lives and bodies that are seen plastered all over social media. This encourages children to believe that they are not good enough or need to change themselves in order to fit into a social media society. In this particular example over here, look at the use of rhetorical question and emotive language. I'm trying to appeal to the reader of this essay, and I'm trying to sway them down a specific road. So, what is a discursive essay? A discursive essay addresses both sides of the argument, the for and the against. So it's a balanced view of both sides. You need to be impartial and you need to be unbiased. You should avoid personal pronouns like I, and then research is required for a logical argument. And remember, planning is absolutely essential. This is going to avoid you contradicting yourself in your essay. And then, remember, in the conclusion, it must weigh both sides of the argument. This is a simple image of the structure of a discursive essay. You will start off with your introduction, move on to argument 1, 2, and 3. This is where you'll be using the P or step 4. And then you have your opposing argument as your last paragraph. And then finally, your conclusion. Remember, in introduction and in conclusion, you need to weigh both sides of the argument. The do's and don'ts for a discursive essay. Do use formal and impersonal language. Use well-developed paragraphs. Use examples and explanations. You need to learn how to reference your sources properly, And then, of course, make use of the linking words. I've included the linking words in the argumentative essay that I'm going to explain later on in this lesson. Then the don'ts. Don't use informal language like slang, cliches, or colloquial language. Don't overgeneralize things. Avoid using personal examples. This is not pure evidence. Then avoid adding information without evidence, and avoid using emotional language in the discursive essay. This is an example from Instant Assignment Help of a very short discursive essay. So you will see that they've broken it up into the introduction, arguments and evidence, and the conclusion. Now, when you are writing this in English, you will not have these headings. These headings have been provided over here to show you how to break up the different parts of the essay. So this particular topic over here, the role of marriage in today's society. Let's have a look at the introduction. If there is one thing that virtually all the world's cultures have in common, it is marriage. Belief, diet, and language vary greatly, but the desire people have to share their lives with another seems universal. Why then is marriage so popular? I want you to make note of the rhetorical question used here. It's drawing the reader in, drawing the audience in. We are answering this question. Psychologists have said that people have a deep need for the emotional security which marriage provides. Knowing that one has a partner that makes it in life makes it easier to cope with problems of daily life. On the other hand, the fact that many single people are content to live alone suggests that the emotional need theory is incomplete. So we can see over here in the introduction that the writer of this discursive essay has spoken about the positives or the pros of being married, that people need this deep connection, and then of course the other side of it, that there are still a lot of single people in this world. Then let's look at the arguments and the evidence. So this would be one paragraph of arguments. British novelist Fay Weldon once said, "Marriage has nothing to do with emotions and everything to do with property." According to the supporters of this view, people marry in order to increase their wealth, either by marrying a rich partner or because, as the saying goes, two can live cheaply as one. It is true that financial considerations are often the primary reason that people get married. However, there are countless examples of people marrying for love, regardless of their mate's lack of money. So this argument is for marriage, people getting married in today's society. And the evidence over here is coming from the fact that people need financial help. This is how you're going to use your P method to point out a statement, explain, and give an example. And then, of course, your conclusion, viewing both sides of the arguments. Now let's look at the argumentative essay. This is when you either agree or disagree with the statements or the question. What's the aim? The aim is to persuade your reader to believe your side of the argument. You are still going to use a formal register. You're not going to use slang or any contractions. Remember that the argument must still be balanced and not biased. You can use persuasive phrases or linking phrases like, "It seems clear to me that," "the text shows that," "this example indicates that." Using these linking phrases will help you make a link between the two sides of the argument. You can also use nevertheless or on the other hand. Another great technique that you can use for argumentative essays is the rhetorical question. This is a way to get the reader on your side. These questions are obvious, but it's going to support your point of view. Then you can use emotional language in the argumentative essay to try and sway the reader's opinion. Your argument should always be in present tense and the tone should be convincing. Let's look at the structure of the argumentative essay. You're going to start off with your introduction, where you need to make your stance known. Do I agree or do I disagree? So, for example, the argumentative essay will prove that apples are better than pears. Now remember, you can be creative in explaining your stance. Then your body, you have 5 paragraphs. You have your introduction, 2 paragraphs for your argument, And then you do have that one paragraph that is against the argument. So make sure that you are balanced. The paragraph at the end will be your final conclusion where you're trying to convince the reader as far as possible to agree with you. Then, remember, you need to provide evidence to support your opinion. And then, of course, your conclusion, rounding off your essay, once again providing the marker with a clear understanding of where you stand on the topic. Here are a couple of tips to help you with the argumentative essay. Remember that you always need to back up your opinion with facts. Avoid writing, I think that. Then do not be biased in your argument. You need to tell both sides of the story. When you round up your ideas, you need to make sure that you are covering the topic. Then at the end of your essay, you can always provide a call of action or call to action, which often is trying to motivate the reader to change their ideas about the given topic. And then, of course, your register is very important. Do not shout or preach to the reader. Be careful of the tone that you are going to be using. That's all for today, Junior Tuckies. I hope that you understand the difference between the discursive and the argumentative essay. Goodbye and good luck.